Hello, hockey fans, and welcome to another edition of the Reing Report. Joey and Lindsay once again back with you as Ontario returning home for the first time in what feels like quite a long time. Lindsay, they're wrapping up a 5-game road trip and now taking on San Antonio Wednesday night before heading back out on the road to face off against Iowa and the Rockford Ice Hogs. But Lindsay, last week in the Reing, wrapping up that road trip in Tucson, Arizona. First time they've ever seen the Roadrunners this season or overall. So what were your impressions taking on a brand new squad?
Well, the rivalry seemed like it might be a good one so far. I mean, I know you were there and saw some of the games, but it got pretty heated there. 2 one-goal games. Reing came out on the losing side of both. That overtime loss on Saturday night. But overall, I thought the rivalry was a little bit of the story of the weekend, and then also the Reig's power play having some struggles out there, and also the penalty kill.
For the Ontario Reign, they would start things off on Friday and Saturday in Tucson before returning home on Sunday. And what was your takeaway? You mentioned the special teams battle and the rivalry overall, but it seemed like for two teams that really had no expectations going into the series beginning in Tucson, it seemed like fireworks were right off from the start.
Sure. Well, the first game of the two, Vincent Loverty, I thought was exceptional. Had 2 very good goals for the Reign. They just came up short. It was Lindbach's debut as well. And then the second game, a 5-4 overtime loss, just kind of got caught there on the losing end. A tough goal at the end. I mean, Lindbach had some really good saves in overtime. But, I mean, really, that power play, 0 for 5 on the weekend. Only had one opportunity on Friday. They came in working at 44%, top in the league. They're still top in the league, but kind of dipped there, and then also gave up a shorthanded goal too on Saturday.
Now for the Reign power play, they scored in every game leading up to that series against Tucson over the weekend. And Lindsay, what did you see that kind of made things a little bit more difficult for the Reign to capitalize?
I think they just weren't really finishing any of their chances. I don't think it was one certain thing, and they don't want to talk about the power play being successful right now. But they're coming back home, kind of get a chance to reset a little bit, and we'll see how they perform here.
We'll talk about finishing chances. Ontario in that first contest, 40-plus shots. In the second one, they went over the 50 mark, so new season highs for the Reign coming out of that weekend. So it's not like they weren't receiving offensive chances.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I thought they had plenty of chances. I think Stuthers said on Friday night that maybe they were just a little bit too fancy with their chances, but they really poured it on Saturday night. 48 shots on goal. Aiden Hill, really stood on his head there a little bit, and they come back with just 1 point out of the 4 games, not feeling too great about their game, but they get a chance to reset here at home.
Now they're going to again take on San Antonio this coming Wednesday before heading back on the road to square off against Iowa and Rockford, and then one more quick road trip out to Stockton before wrapping up the month here on home ice. Now, Lindsay, you mentioned Anders Lindbach making his season debut for Ontario in the weekend. Certainly they were happy to have an NHL veteran goaltender by their side, but he was tested pretty early and pretty on and just trying to find his groove again.
Yeah, well, I think it was a difficult situation for him to come into, and Stuthers told me that on Saturday that, a back-to-back situation, hadn't played in many games, and so it's pretty tough. I mean, considering the fact that he played in just 1 preseason game at the NHL level this year, and then, had to play in that back-to-back too. I thought on Saturday night he maybe looked a little tired out there, gave up some goals that he probably wanted to have back, to be honest, but bounced back in overtime, gave up the 2-on-1 goal at the end, but on that one he really didn't have much of a chance, to be honest.
And other transaction news coming into this week's worth of action for Ontario is that Jack Campbell also being returned to the Ontario Reign from the LA Kings. And that's kind of been the hot topic for you and I these past couple of Reign reports, is the goaltending situation with LA, with Ontario, who's coming up, who's going down. It was a rookie net-minding duo that was here at one point, but now you get some AHL and NHL experience. So, Lindsay, in your mind, is the dust kind of starting to settle a little bit in terms of the goaltending and the big shakeups we've seen from up top and here in Ontario?
Right. Well, in some ways it is, Joey, and then in some ways it isn't, because of what we just discussed. Lindbach kind of putting himself into a situation where he hasn't been in game action, and now Jack Campbell comes back and he hasn't played in a full game since October 21st, the Reign's home opener. Appeared in just 1 game with the Kings in relief last week, just 1 period. So he actually will start tomorrow against San Antonio. Stuthers just said that. So we'll see kind of what he has when it's been nearly almost 3 weeks out of game action of a full game for him.
Now, the Reign very familiar with the San Antonio Rampage. They saw him 2 weekends ago in San Antonio, and that was a big win, 4-2 at AT&T Center. So, Lindsay, this is a San Antonio team that's pretty much spending the entire month out on the road. This is game number 4 of a 6-game road trip for them. They've only had 1 home game in their last 7. So, for Ontario, even though it's a rare home game for them, they're kind of seeing the same scenarios in terms of going out on the road a lot. It's still an opportunity to come back home, sleep in your own bed, and try and simplify your game.
Well, I think that's everything you just said is what they were talking about today. I mean, Stuther said it felt like forever since they have played a home game. Mersch said the same thing. I mean, and even last week, they're part of a 5-game road trip, but they're over at the practice rink. It just adds a little bit more to the day. Mersch was saying, when they're practicing here, they kind of get in, get out, get to have the rest of the day to themselves. So I think even with going into tomorrow, it's helpful too because it is a familiar opponent and they're back on home ice finally. Stuther said that they were just giddy to practice even in their own arena today, so we should hopefully see some good rain game tomorrow.
Now, compared to what you talked about with the Tucson series and maybe trying to be doing a little too much, I guess you could say, or be a little too cute, does that help with the Ontario aura of coming home to Citizens Business Bank Arena? They can just kind of break things down to simple hockey?
I'm sure. I mean, just a chance to kind of get back to work and get back to the simple things. I mean, they've been struggling on their penalty kill, but Stuther said, they don't want to dwell on it. Michael Mersch said they've been working hard on it. So I think maybe coming home, feeling a little bit more settled, just give them a chance to play in front of their home fans that have always been very good to them, Mersch was saying. So expect a fun one out in Ontario tomorrow.
And then for the Reign, they're going to wrap up the weekend out in the Midwest. First time they've ever seen the Iowa Wild or Rockford Ice Hogs, let alone travel to Des Moines, Iowa or Rockford, Illinois. And we've kind of broke down a little bit of what they have to offer. But again, brand new opponents, kind of like what we saw with Tucson. But Lindsay, what are you seeing from these two teams?
Well, they're both lower teams in the Central Division right now, 6th and 7th respectively. Obviously, Iowa is a little bit familiar for Brett Sutter. That's where the Reign got him from. And then these are really both two teams that the Reign haven't faced in this season or last season, and they're really only going to see them 4 times. Twice right now on the road, and then later in the season they'll be home here in Ontario.
Now, the big thing I'm seeing in terms of what the standings are showing, and granted they're untested teams, you don't know what they have to offer and how they're going to play into the Ontario style, but between San Antonio, Iowa, and Rockford, all 3 teams lower in their standings, it's an opportunity for the Reign to pick up some crucial points that they may have lost in the previous weekends.
Well, and I think they need to pick up those points too, just because morale can be a little bit low, because I think Stuthers thought the effort was there really over the weekend, but really only getting 1 point out of the 4 probably hurts them a little bit. And then even going back to the previous weekend, feeling like their game was progressing in the right direction, but that they really only were able to come out with 1 win.
The Reign home tomorrow night, Wednesday night, against the San Antonio Rampage, and then back out on the road against Iowa and Rockford. You can catch all the action on OntarioReign.com, AHL Live, and on Reign Radio, and all the inside scoops with Lindsay at Reign Insider on Twitter, and, of course, the Reign Insider page over on LAKings.com. Lindsay, thanks for joining us for the Reign Report.
Great. Thanks, Joey.